So I'm just gonna go through everything as it comes to me and just keep cranking away. What I'm thinking about right now is the PDF regarding Ecoscene, which somewhere has we have all the guilds, people involved, all these. Wow, that's awesome. Partnerships. So we have a 6-month plan here. And I was thinking of recreating this Gantt chart. And in the structure of the docs, it's a little bit interesting what fields to use. So, for instance, content and campaigns, podcasting, scheduling, recording, post-production. Or maybe, I don't know, academy. Well, for one, we need to build a due date for the task. So, here's all the sections. As an overview of the doc structure, a lot of times with data modeling for an app, you're going to create, so these are tables, often known as collections within a database, just like the top level segmentation of a data model. And if you have a very specific app, say Airbnb, you might have models of like a unit, and then a customer, and then a reservation. And the trouble there is that you can't really scale up functionality-wise for what you're building, in the sense of if it's a finite feature set, great, and you're going to just do that and do it well. But what I want to create, and I think is necessary for Ecoscene, and just general community platform, is a sort of unending feature set that just evolves into everything possible to effectively recreate the internet. So I have a general doc structure. Now the docs themselves, these are all the different fields. This is the Glide data layout. Think of it like Google or spreadsheets, but also combined with logic, where a column is not just a representation of data, but also data manipulation. So, for instance, the main one, you would start off with a basic understanding. Everyone has a row ID. It's just a hexadecimal amount or value that it won't be replicated. And that is used as I can't remember what it's called, like the key row or key column. Because you want to be able to reference things like a document, but if you reference it by the title, then you can't change the title because then the references will break. So the title in this case is a simple text field. It's the most basic one. You have all these other elemental data structures of true or false, an image, date, time, a link, rich text, which allows formatting, an email, phone number, and duration emoji. So that'll just store a basic value that you can edit back here. Here's an example of a calculated column where, to give you an example, if I were to add a column to the right, the new column would have all these different options. So the basics is what we're just looking at. And then you can have computed values, which is basically manipulating other data. So like a math column would just say we would just type that out, 1 + 2, and that new column would be 3. And then you can use variable, and then it would say, oh, we saw variable, what does that mean? What is that referencing? In this case, if it's like the body, that would just show the body of this. And when you click on it, it allows you to reference all the other columns you have. So it's like this, it becomes this giant game of like referencing other references, particularly when you're referencing data within its own document. So in this case, lowered is just taking this string and lowering it. And I do that because I treat documents as, well, not tags. So actually, it's kind of useless at this point, but it's what text do you want to do? You want to convert it all to lowercase. Title and body, in this case, is a template where I just, again, have replacements, and I want to combine the title and the body, and I use that for when I want to send to OpenAI, so I can extract the keywords, and I can just have one data set of all of that information, so I can have them combined. So over here, these are just folders. So you can see this is model/string, and again, it's just a text field. Then this reference is a relation saying find the value in this model string, and then see where it matches an actual document on this other table from the name. So it says model's name. I could click here and I could go through all the other tables, and I can click to see what value I want to match it to. So if I go into the models table, now there's just a set of these models which I can change on a whim, and these are the basic kind of data templates of how to use, well, any document added. So as you can see, obviously product, expense, question, completion, and it's both a combination of, and this is the challenge of designing the app, where you think, what would a user want to add? Not so that it's overwhelming, but also it gives some form of a framework. So for instance, clearly I want to be able to create an event, and also just a general post. I like to think of like an evolution of the information or the user activity, where a user would, okay, a post is like a social media kind of thing. An event would be somewhat similar. It's going to have a title, it's got a description, image, an author, a timestamp, but also a start and stop, and also a location. And then what I think is a fun challenge is to sort of see where those data types can be like double utilized, in the sense of a task would have perhaps a start and stop time, but obviously that's a different context. So we can allow for the same concept. And also the advantage of having a uniform data structure is that for things like, if I want to take the AI tags out of everything that comes by, I don't need to recreate that every time if it's an event or a task or something individually. So the more you kind of add the manipulators to the data, you realize these data, the concept of a user-generated post is generally uniform with regard to the amount of things that we want to do compared to the differences of the data set. And then on the UX, you can still display differently. For instance, I can create this section called events, and in the events, on the left here is this navigation where you have all the different main sections, menu items, pages. And if you can compress that, I can go into something like the events, and here you have the container and then the components for this page. So right now I have 3 components. This is a list component. I click on that, and on the right here I have the options for what this component is. And so if I hover over that, it shows that this is that section, and it says, okay, we have a list. It could also be cards, and if you see when I click on this, it changes this UI widget, which is just wild compared to custom coding these things and going, I want it to look a little bit different. And it would take a little bit of time, and with every app you would generally evolve into your own component library anyway. So this is a huge advantage of what no code does. So anyway, in this case, a table and a list are fairly similar. It's just a little different in design. And you have the 4 main sections. So you want to map these like widget sections to something, because I know that I'm listing out, well, first off, the source is going to be what table are you pulling from. We would pull the docs, and then over here we would title the event, and then over here you can add a filter So if you go down here into the filter data, this visibility section is just like, if you could say add a condition, you could say the user profile. These are all the fields on the doc data model, or the data schema that are available, and you also always have access to the user profile. So if I hover over user profile, these are all of the fields. Some of them are calculated, like your credit, but also basically the variables that I'm storing on the user profile. So you have basic things like your name, your body, your email, your phone number, and then we have some automated ones like this is asking OpenAI to extract the tags from your body so we can map it to tags so we can connect data. Your image, etc. And there's a few. It does get complex quickly because you think, well, should I be able to add multiple images? Should I create a banner image or a profile image? A location. This might evolve into using an integration to establish the geo-coordinates for the location, whereas you start off with a string, and there's an integration service that if I said Boulder, CO, it would convert that into geo-coordinates so that I could more easily put it on a map, or moreover establish like a distance calculation, so we could say things like find the things that are nearest to me. So again, it's a combination of like the static information and then the calculated depending on the context. If I like pin my current location and then I want to find stuff nearby. In this case, if I use the user profile and I say something like just the row ID, if it's just not empty, that would mean basically I have to be logged in, and I can verify that. If I click out of this, that's stored up here. To the top left over here, I'm saying viewing as rep dev. So they're the list of users. Anyone would be a non-logged in user. If I simulate that, all of a sudden, even this whole screen, the visibility condition is false, which I don't really need. So I'm going to remove that. So I go up to kind of zoom out. This is the options for this whole tab. Show the tab when info dev is not empty. I can just remove that. But now this is visible, but the top component is not. So if I go through here and I remove this visibility condition, that'll pop back open. And then you have basic functions, like there's a search bar up top here, and if I unclick that, that'll just calculate that. And then if we have the in-app filter, which is what this pops up to be, where the refs' names are really just the tags, so we can rename that. So someone could say, whatever, Hill, and this is just the automatic tags of I was meeting Aaron on the corner of the hill, and we had a nice chat. Basic data viewing manipulators, but it lends itself to a lot of rapid prototyping. I think it's necessary if you're going to build something with such a massive scope that just continually grows.